Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to talk about how to organize your overstuffed closets. So last week I did a video and I showed you how I organize our small closets here in our home, and I got some feedback here on YouTube and over on Instagram indicating that maybe there are some people struggling with having overstuffed closets. In fact, I put a poll up on my Instagram stories and 82% of the people who responded said that their closets are filled with too many things. So today we're going to talk about how you can purge and clean out your closets in a really effective way. I hope that this is really helpful so that you can create more closet space in your home. Before we dive into today's video, I would love it if you would take a second and tap subscribe and be a part of this growing community. Guys, we talk about so many fun things, all about interior design, making your home and your space feel beautiful and truly be a reflection of who you are, not who somebody else is. So tap subscribe, come be a part of this journey. There are some incredible professional organizers as well as some psychologists that can talk about why we hold on to the things we hold on to and how to work around that kind of stuff. I'm not going to talk about that kind of stuff today, but what I will share with you are a few things that I have done myself as I've gone on my own journey of letting go of some items and creating a space that's a little more open, that has a little bit more room. And so I hope that the questions that I ask myself are helpful for you as you begin to purge your overstuffed closets. Number one is set your priorities. When you open up that overstuffed closet, what is a goal that you are setting out to accomplish? Do you want to just have everything in a nice organized home and everything has a spot, or are you setting out to really do a deep dive and a purge and truly eliminate things? Or are you okay with getting rid of some stuff, but the majority of the things you want to keep? Set your priorities right off the hop so that you can then work towards accomplishing your goal while your priorities are being kept in mind. So one of the priorities that I have in my house is to not hold on to anything longer than I need it. I don't like having extra clutter around. I don't like all my storage spaces being stuffed to the brim. So one of my priorities is purge whenever I can. Let me share with you an example of how understanding our priorities has worked here for us. So my husband and I loved to golf. Back before we had children, we used to golf regularly and it was one of our favorite things to do together. But over the years, once we had kids, it almost immediately came to a screeching halt and there wasn't the time in our schedules to really give to golfing, nor was there the financial resources to put towards golfing. So over the years, as I have purged and cleaned out different storage areas and closets in our home, we have still kept the golf clubs because one of our priorities is one day down the road we're going to get back on the golf course and we're going to enjoy that time together again, doing something that we really love. But those golf clubs have made it through purge after purge after purge because we understand what our priorities are. However, when I'm looking at the space and saying I really got to clear up some space, I can't hold on to this stuff. Things like the dance costumes I had held on to from my teenage years taking dance lessons, those got purged. So a priority would be I don't need to hold on to the actual costume from when I was a teenager. I have photos of those dance recitals and I can still have the memory that way. So for me, setting my priorities meant holding on to the golf clubs, but getting rid of dance costumes. So really understand going into your process, what is going to be your priority? What do you want that space to look like? And how are you going to prioritize what you choose to get rid of so that you can accomplish those goals? The second thing I would say is to really recognize the season of life that you are in and give yourself permission to live in that season. You need grace sometimes when you are in a season of life that requires you to hold on to some stuff that you would really rather get rid of. I remember when my husband and I were deciding if we were going to have more kids or not, we still had strollers and playpens and high chairs and all the things for babies because we didn't want to get rid of that stuff in case we decided to continue to grow our family. Once we made the decision that we were done having children, then of course I could purge all of those things and get rid of them. But there was a handful of years in there where we had all of this extra stuff taking up storage space and taking up room in closets because we just weren't sure. And so there's got to be some grace given to yourself and some permission to understand certain seasons of life are going to require certain things being in storage and taking up some valuable space But that's okay, because the greater purpose is being served should you need those items again. So once you've set your priorities and you've kind of evaluated the season of life that you're in and given yourself the permission to just embrace that, the first thing I would ask is, do I need this? Okay, need is like on a wide spectrum, because you could look at your closet, for example, and you could say, I have 4 different denim jackets, but they're all different colors and styles and they serve different purposes, so I actually need them. Or you could go on the other end of the spectrum and say, I don't need any denim jackets. Technically, I just need a jacket for the cooler weather. You know? So there's a wide spectrum when you use the word need. Figure out what that is for you, and then ask yourself that question. Do I need this? Is this serving the purpose that I need it to serve? Do I truly need this? And you may decide, I need all 4 of those denim jackets in my life. Or you may decide, you know what? I actually just need 1, or maybe I just need 2. But ask yourself the question, do I need this? No matter what your definition of need is in that moment, you might be surprised at the amount of things that you have in your closets that even to your standard of need, it doesn't meet that standard. I have a friend whose family loves playing board games. They probably have hundreds of board games, but they have the space for it and it works for their lifestyle. But let's just say that that's you and you love playing board games, but you don't have the space to house all of the board games that you own. That would be a really great time to talk to your kids and your family members about, what do we need? How many games do we need? And once you kind of land on what that need is for you, then you could say, okay, each one of us gets to pick, pretend, 10 games. And at the end of all of our selection of our top 10 games each, all of the rest are getting donated. Really thinking through what you need and what you value in that sense is really going to be helpful in helping you get rid of some of the things that you've been holding on to that are making your closets overstuffed. Coming up next week, I'm going to do a video that's really specifically targeting our wardrobes and how to purge through our clothes and make sure we're not holding on to items in our closet that we don't need, that aren't serving us well, that are outdated or whatever it might be. So come back next week if your issue really is your bedroom closet. I'm going to help you purge and end up creating a closet that you love looking at and that is filled with clothes that you feel are a great reflection of who you are or who you're growing into becoming. It's going to be a really great video. Come back next week for that. Number 4 would be set new limits. So if you currently have an overwhelmingly large amount of an item, set a new limit. What is going to be the new acceptable limit for you? It might mean that all of this specific item that fits into a bin, that's the limit. If it doesn't fit in the bin, then we don't keep it. It might be everything that can fit on a couple of shelves. If it fits on those shelves, then that's the limit. But whatever you determine, set that limit and then stick to that limit. You know, I remember when my kids were little and they would come home from school or church and they would have these pictures that they drew. And, you know, like when your kids are little, it's like every day you're getting like a new artwork from your kids. And I just had to go through them all and really pick which ones were valuable, which ones did I want to hold on to, and which ones was I okay tossing when they weren't looking. I have a bin in the basement, one bin, just, you know, a normal size, nothing massive, one bin, and all of my kids' like memory items are in that one bin. So if it doesn't fit in that bin, I have to like purge and process as they were getting older and as I was still adding things to the bin. If it didn't fit, is there something that I valued more or less that I could then kind of sort through and choose to get rid of in order to be able to house everything in that one bin? So set a new limit, stick to whatever that limit might be. You will find yourself, even though that initial like feeling of, I really want this, but it doesn't have a home. Once you live like that, you will really love the space that you create, the organization that you have, and the way that your closets aren't overflowing and filled with all of the things, because you really honed in and picked your favorites, the things that are valuable to you, and really the things that you can contain and house in the new home. Number 5 is to embrace empty space. Allow there to be breathing room, whether it's in a closet or on shelves or in drawers. Learn to embrace breathing room and open space between some items. So maybe you have all of your, I'll use board games as an example again, all your board games like stacked up on a couple of shelves. Then like, let's say at the end of the shelf, there's still some room, like leave it. Like just because the space is there doesn't mean it has to be filled, every square inch taken up with housing something. Learn to embrace the open space, to say like, everything has breathing room. There's room around the items. I have all the items that I need, and there's extra space. Once you get used to that and live in that space of, okay, like I like breathing room, I like there being some open spaces here, you will find that you are a little bit more at peace, a little bit more calm. You don't have all the stuff crammed into all the places that end up making you feel like you need to do a purge, because you have begun to just embrace the fact that there's a little bit of extra room and nothing needs to live there. So if you've gone through that process and you've figured out your priorities and you've set your goals and you've said, okay, this is what we determined that we need, and this is the space that it's gonna house in, and this is the limits of that space, you might want to ask yourself a handful of questions. There are a whole bunch of questions that you could find online for different ways to process through keeping or purging items. These are the things that I asked myself that were really helpful for me. I hope that they're helpful for you. First question is, what will I feel if I get rid of this? If I take a second to slow down and think, if I have a stack of books that I'm going to get rid of, what will I feel? Sometimes I'll feel like, oh, I don't know if I want to get rid of that. And then explore why. Well, what is it about that I don't want to get rid of? And then I realize, oh, there's actually one book in that stack that I really, truly want to keep. Okay, keep that book. Now with the remaining stack of books, how will I feel if I get rid of that? I will feel a lot lighter and like I'm making progress here. So yes, let's donate those books. So just take a moment and ask yourself, how will I feel if I get rid of this, and see what kind of surfaces as you process through those feelings. Another question is, how will I feel if I have less stuff? How will I feel if I have less of whatever it is that right now you have a lot of? What will I feel like if I open my closet and there's half of that item? What will I feel like if I open my closet and instead of having, 5 different body lotion options, I have one? What will I feel? What will I feel if I go to put on my makeup in the morning and I have one eyeshadow palette to choose from instead of 7? Like, ask yourself those types of questions. How will I feel if I have less stuff? And see if you learn something about yourself from those feelings. You might realize that you're gonna feel 100 times better and have less decision fatigue and less options that you're having to choose through in your everyday life, and so you're gonna actually feel better. Or you may feel a bit of like sorrow, like I'm gonna miss out on the creative element of something. I'm gonna miss out on the flexibility I have with all of these options. But ask yourself, how you feel like living with less, so that you can determine what arises to the surface, and then kind of lean into that. Let that help guide the decision-making process. Another really great question is, how frequently do I use this? We made the decision a number of years ago when we were purging our kitchen one day. I wasn't gonna keep things that I only used once a year, which meant anything that I ever used for like Thanksgiving dinner or Christmas dinner, although that technically is twice a year, I just said I'm not gonna keep it. I'm not gonna keep it. And what's the worst case scenario? Which really leads me to question number 4. What's the worst case scenario? If I get rid of this item that I only use once a year, what's the worst case scenario? What's gonna happen? I'm gonna have to borrow somebody from somebody else. I'm gonna have to find a new way of doing something. For example, one of the things we got rid of is a potato masher. Turns out we ended up making mashed potatoes way more times throughout the year than I ever would have thought of, but I do it never using a potato masher. So it all still worked out. This is a really common question that we talk through when women are choosing to purge the clothes in their closets. What's the worst case scenario? So say this event comes up and you think, oh no, I really wanted that red shirt and I got rid of that red shirt. Okay, what's the worst case scenario? Wear a different shirt, buy a different shirt, maybe rent a different shirt, borrow one from your friend. Like, what's the worst case scenario? And is that worst case scenario greater than the freedom that you will find when you have purged some of these items from your life? And if it is, then don't get rid of it. But if you think, no, in that moment I can troubleshoot what's gonna come up and think, I don't need that item all year round in my life, or that one time I might choose to use it, then going through the worst case scenario in your mind might help you land on, yep, I can handle that worst case scenario for the freedom that getting rid of this item is gonna bring me, And the final question that I like to ask is, am I controlling my environment, or are my things controlling my environment? If I'm controlling my environment, Gretchen Rubin, a wonderful author, she makes this comment like, some people have this need for outer order equaling inner calm. And that is so me. Outer order, inner calm. If my outside area is like a mess and all cluttered and there's just too much stuff, I don't have this inner calm. I have this sense of I have to clean and purge and get everything organized and everything in its home again. And then when everything is there, then I have an intercom. So I ask myself, am I controlling my environment? Am I creating the space around me that I can thrive in and function in? Am I creating a space in my home that my family can thrive and function in? Because they're not all going to be wired the same way I am. Am I in control of this environment in my home, or are my things dictating the environment that is around me? And when I kind of process things through that, I'm much more able to say, yep, that thing's making me unhappy, or that thing is kind of cluttering our environment and our home, or that item has been a source of contention in our family. It's not worth it. We're just going to purge and get rid of it so that I can be in control of the environment that I'm creating around me in my home. There are a handful of other questions you could ask. There's other really great tips out there from professional organizers and psychologists to help you think through why you're holding onto things or why we could let things go. I would love to hear if there's any questions you ask yourself as you're going through the purging process. Are there certain things that help you land on the decision of whether to keep an item or get rid of an item? Comment below, let me know what some of those questions are that you ask yourself. That's it for today, you guys. Come back next week. We're going to talk all about how to purge your bedroom closet, the closet where you house all of your clothes. This is going to be a good one. It's going to be a deep dive. You're not going to want to miss it. I'll see you guys next week here at I Am Loved.